and click on Select Subject, either at the bottom here or at the top. There's another button here. So if you click on it, Photoshop does a really good job at selecting the subject, which in this case is the dog. So you can see here, you can zoom in. Oh, we have the selection going all the way around. Now, the thing is, we can't really see if it grabbed the hairs, the fur, all of that stuff. So if you want to see closer, you need to click on Select and Mask. And we have to do this, otherwise it will not look natural when we try to remove the background. So we click on that. You can already see if I zoom in with Command plus sign, I'm going to just hold down my space bar. Do you see how the edges look kind of sharp? You don't really see the fur, the edges, right? That's what I'm talking about. It's kind of jaggedy, and that's not going to look natural. So in this view mode, you have different views that will help you. So I can change it to a different view completely so you can see the selection. If I go to the red, but I'm going to just stay on the gray or on the black, it says A. And while I'm here, there's another tool here on the left-hand side underneath the first one. So this is quick selection. Underneath this one is called Refine Hair. So if I click on that tool, and this is kind of big, this brush is kind of big. So remember that you have your brush sizes. I can make this smaller. I'm going to make the brush a little bit smaller than that. I'm just going to click and drag. Okay, click and drag. Do you see how it softens the edges? And don't go too far out, but it softens the edges. So that's what Refine Hair does, so that it will at least look somewhat natural. However, this can take some time, which again, I don't want to rely on this other tool, but I do want to introduce you to Refine Hair tool, which is an addition to this tool. And the reason for that is because when you click on Refine Hair, it will automatically refine all the hair for you. So I'm going to click on it, give it a second. Do you see how it softened most of the edges? Not all, because if you look closely, do you see how it didn't get everything? So that's why I don't want you to rely on Refine Hair. Make sure that you are using this Refine Hair tool here, Refine Edge Brush. And you are essentially going in and going into the places that it didn't grab and softening those edges. Okay. So that's all I want you to do for this, soften that. And see if there's anything else. I think most of this is pretty good for now. Okay, so once you're done, then you'll click on OK, and it will still bring you back to the selection. So all we did was adjust the selection. And so when we remove the background, which is very easy to do right here, at the bottom here, this little window that pops up, there is this mask tool. So this little square with the circle in it, if you click on it, it removes the background or the white. So you can see in your layers panel that it actually shows that you created a mask, which is non-destructive editing and is actually preferable to do this as opposed to deleting a background, because you may want to, if there was a different background completely, you may want to maybe sometimes go back to it. So let me just show you how to disable this mask. If I ever want to go back to the original, I would right click on this portion here of this layer and disable layer mask. Then it will bring back the original background. But in this case, we want to enable it. And now the checkered is a transparent background. So I can either bring in other images for the background or put in an actual background. And that's what we're going to do. Put in our own custom background. Okay, so if we were designing for print, we would need higher quality images. So let's just double check this. We would have to go to, at the top, image, you will find what is the actual color mode. For this particular For this particular lab, it will be RGB, but if you were designing for print, it would have to be CMYK. And image size, if you open that up, you will see that here is the resolution, which is 300. So for print, it always has to be 300. 72, if it said 72, that would only be good for web quality. So this is pretty high, and I would leave this as is. And you could see here what the size is of this particular image. So that's a pretty good quality size image. I'm going to press OK for that, just to show you where that is. Again, image, you'll find that. All right, so we have another file. So what I would do is I would just bring this file over into this dog file. So this is what I would do. I would hold on to the move tool. And if I press Command A essentially grabs it, okay? Then you would click on to copy, basically edit, copy, or Command C, and go into dog and press Command V here. Are you sure you want to? Yes, we're going to press OK. It's kind of small, but for the purpose of this lesson, we won't worry about it. So when you scale this, we're going to have to scale it, and we're going to have to also remove the background of this. Okay, so I wouldn't worry so much about the size right now because we can't even see the dog's face yet. So we could use the same tool as before, right? We could use the selection tool that we use, the quick selection tool. So if I try it, or if I click on this, do you see how it grabs? I'm going to zoom in. It grabs the lenses, that's what we want, and the frames. We want to grab both the lenses and the frames. So when you click on it a few times, but do you see how it's going into the white here? So again, if you cannot see that, I would use the select and mask tool. And this is what's going to actually look like if you remove the background, and see how that doesn't look very good. I'll make sure we're on the right tool. Click on the minus sign, make sure that you're on the quick selection tool, and make sure it's on the minus because we don't want to keep adding. If I keep adding, it's going to add more white. If I press the minus sign or click on the minus sign, then it will remove these portions. I might have to make my brush size smaller, but it's only grabbing the red frames and the lenses, okay? So if I zoom out a bit, this doesn't look too bad. I'm gonna go press OK. And now you can see that it only grabbed what we need. So I'm going to click on this tool again, which is another mask. See, the arms are kind of in the way. So we could use there's a couple different tools you can use. I'm going to show you there is spot healing. The remove tool is a new tool. It's a fantastic tool. So let's actually try to use this. You could also use patch tool. There is remove tool as well. So let's see if I could make this brush size bigger. Okay. Let's see what happens here. Did not so bad job. I might have to zoom in a bit and make my brush size smaller. This side, we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to go around this and try not to touch the actual frame on the outside, just the arm. And give it a second. Okay. And you might have to go in a few times because, again, it is AI. It's not perfect. And there is a bit here too. I wouldn't worry too much. Maybe I might use a different tool for this. So if I use spot healing, I should be able to go in and click and drag. That's it. I can do this here as well. It instantly cleans that up. So we did a pretty good job. We obviously still have to remove, we will still see if we can make the lenses transparent, but we did a pretty good job in putting these sunglasses on. I'm going to scale this up a little bit because I think they're a little too small. And make sure when you scale it, just going to give you a heads up, don't stretch them in, okay? or too much like this, because what you're doing is distorting them. So make sure that when you scale them, that you're scaling it into proportion and you're not losing the proportion, okay? So on some of the computers, not all of them, you'll have to double check your Photoshop. The Shift key helps with this, but in the newer versions of Photoshop, the Shift key doesn't always work. So you'll have to double check your version and give it a try, okay? If you find that the Shift key is distorting your image, then don't use the Shift key. On my computer, the Shift key actually does help. And that's essentially it. And then I'm just gonna rotate it slightly just gonna slightly rotate it a little bit. That's really it, by clicking and dragging and hovering over the corners here. Do you see how your cursor changes into this little, almost like rotate, as opposed to when you go to the middle, right? And that's it. Okay, so now we've done two things. We have the dog, we have the sunglasses, and we might want to make the background bigger as well. Or we might want to grab these two layers. I can grab them by selecting and holding my Shift key. So you see how I selected both, and taking the Move tool and moving this more centered in the middle. And there we go.